This is East Idaho Newsmakers with Nate Eaton.
Thanks for being with us today. We are talking with Clarke Farrer. He is the CEO and Scout Executive for the Grand Teton Council of the BSA. Of course, the LDS Church announced that after a 100-year plus relationship that the church will no longer be associating with the Boy Scouts at the end of 2019, next year. How did you find out about this news, Clarke? I'm sure it was kind of a shocker.
It was. I got an email midday yesterday from the Chief Scout Executive saying that there was an important conference call. Then I got a follow-up call from my next level superior in scouting asking if I got the email and was I gonna, and I said I've already RSVP'd. He said we're just calling everybody. It's important. I said okay. So I could tell something was up. But
did you think that's what it would be?
No, not initially. My initial reaction, honestly, was, now what? There's really nothing left. I mean, every time they have these kind of meetings, it was something, announcement of something, pretty significant things that we've talked about in the past, but very big change. So initially, there's a couple other things going on in scouting that I thought maybe it had to do with, but as I thought more about it, as the time drew closer, I realized as big a deal as they're making about it, that it may be about the church's relationship with scouting. So I didn't know that, but I started wondering about that, and the announcement was made, and that's what it was. So.
There's probably, excluding Utah, there's probably no other council that's affected more by this than yours. Would that be accurate?
There's 3 councils in Utah. Largest one is Utah National Parks Council. It's the largest council in America. And then Salt Lake Council. Salt Lake used to be the largest, but some things changed. But anyway, the 3 largest councils, Salt Lake, Utah National Parks, and then Ogden. And then we're right behind them in terms of the size of LDS scouting.
80% in Eastern Idaho.
90% of our units are chartered by local LDS wards. 80% of our kids, and that 80% number actually comes from a survey we did 3 or 4 years ago. Our council president at the time, Dr. Ben Call, did a survey, and there were several questions. We knew there was a strain in the relationship between the LDS Church and local scouting and national scouting. But he did a survey, and we asked several questions to try to identify where we could improve, where we could make a difference, or what kinds of things we need to change to improve our relationship. But I asked him to include a question because we don't, in our registration process, we don't ask people, what's your religion? We have a requirement in scouting to believe in God and to do your duty to God. But beyond that, we don't, you don't have to be a member of a certain religion. And it's kind of a lot of people in our area, for example, there's a lot of people that aren't involved in scouting that think that scouting is just an LDS church program. Of course, it is an LDS church program, but we have hundreds of scouts that are involved in scouting locally that aren't members of the LDS church. So we asked the question. So this was a question of all the stake presidents and all the bishops in the Grand Teton Council, all of Eastern Idaho, Western Wyoming, and West Yellowstone. It was interesting. The stake president's estimate was a lot higher than the bishops. But we took the bishops because we figured they're a little closer to the
boys, yeah.
But they told us that 20% of the accumulated total was 20% of the kids in their LDS units, packs and troops, were not members of the LDS Church. So that's where I'm getting the 80% figures, that approximately 80% are LDS, 20% are not. So that for us, that translates into if we lose 80% in a year and a half, which we won't lose them all, but if we did lose them, we're looking somewhere around 19,000 kids.
Gone.
We served 23,000, at the end of 2017, we were serving over 23,000 kids. It's actually 23,500. But the potential would be approximately, I think the actual number is 18,800. But again, we won't lose them all because we average anywhere from 600 to 700 Eagle Scouts every year. So a year and a half from now, there's going to be somewhere between 600 or 700 boys in the queue to be an Eagle Scout. They're not all going to walk away. They're going to want to finish. And then there's going to be their younger brothers or their families. And we've got hundreds of LDS Scouters that are involved in scouting well beyond, their kids have already grown up and left, but they've become converted. They understand that scouting is a good program, and they're wood badge staffers and cedar badge staffers and council volunteers and board members, and they have a vision. They believe in scouting, and they're in it because they know and they love it. We're not going to lose those people.
You mentioned that there was a strained relationship between the Scouts and the church. Do you think that the recent decisions by the Boy Scouts led the church to finally say, we need to pull out?
I know a lot of people think that, and a lot of people have read that into it. But the church has never said that. The church has never said that. And even in the current statement, they have said that the reason that they're withdrawing from scouting is because they have this new worldwide initiative, but they haven't made any reference to the whatever you want to call them, social changes the Boy Scouts have made. So again, I know people make that assumption, but that has not been what the church is saying. I guess people can draw their own conclusions.
Have you heard anything at the local level from parents or Scouts that are unhappy with the way that the Scouts are moving? Admitting girls and the gay leaders, things like that.
Yeah,
calling it BSA.
Eastern Idaho in general, and particularly LDS people in Eastern Idaho, are very conservative, and a lot of people have been very upset about the decisions the Boy Scouts have made over the last 5 years. So every time they've made those decisions, and I can go back and I can track it, but for example, the decision 5 years ago to allow gay youth to register in scouting, that decision cost the Grand Teton Council $150,000 in financial support.
Wow,
and
that's
I can measure
significant.
that based on, because we had a very consistent record in Friends of Scouting. That year, it dropped off $150,000. So it's definitely a cause and effect. So if you, to answer your question, were people upset? Well, if they voted with their wallet, they were probably upset.
But there could have been other troops in the country that maybe saw an increase once they made that decision.
That certainly was the expectation. That has not been the reality.
Really?
Both in financial support and in membership. Our council, the Grand Teton Council, we have had continual membership growth. We're actually one of the fewer, there are not many councils across America that have had membership growth over time. We had the longest track record in the Boy Scouts of America up until the end of, let's see, would be, I guess the 1st of March of this year. That's the first membership decline we've had, and that again was directly attributed to the church's announcement a year ago that they would not continue varsity venturing. As soon as the church made that announcement, I knew that our track record and membership growth. So we've continued to grow in our membership consistently for years in this council, where most councils across America have not. They've either been flat or losing membership. But again, the last 5 years, we've seen a definite cause and effect in the decline of financial support, which has been stressful. So right now, this year, with the announcement from the church a year ago about older Scouts, and then about the same time the BSA announcement about allowing girls, and then most recently the announcement about the name change. And I want to come back to that. That combination of events, and of course now this new announcement, but we don't know yet what that effect will be. Our Friends of Scouting campaign right now is down $300,000 from where it should be. Normally we'd be wrapping it up and we'd be about 100%. We're a little over 70% right now. So again, people are voting with their wallet. I mean, there's got to be some kind of a correlation there. Mm-hmm. But that's pretty serious, $300,000, for our size and our budget. Coupled with that, on top of that, the local United Way, Idaho Falls United Way, the United Way board voted to not fund the Boy Scouts of America Grand Teton Council locally. And that we've been a partner in the United Way since they began.
Why is that?
Probably have to ask them. But we've had a kind of a bit of a strained relationship for lots of reasons. But they just about a month ago, they went through the allocation process and they gave us a letter saying that the local United Way board, and again, I want to clarify, it's Idaho Falls United Way because we do receive funding from the Pocatello United Way.
But the Idaho Falls United Way.
But yeah, they dropped. So that was last year. The total funding was about $17,000. So that combination, it's been a rough year, And now, and now this announcement. So that's why I go back to say, I hope that people read the full statement. Paragraph 3, last sentence, says that the church encourages that full participation and financial support of scouting. Because I understand that many people are mad at scouting. But people need to understand there's a difference between the Boy Scouts of America and the Grand Teton Council. We're the local affiliate. If you want, we're the franchise. We have the franchise to operate scouting here. But the board and the director of the Grand Teton Council, we don't make any of those decisions that people are upset about. But as a franchise, I have to follow the directions of the parent organization. So locally, we've been talking. We've got a new council commissioner from Rigby, DeLynn Simmons, and DeLynn, he was a Jamboree scout leader last summer. It was Jamboree year. And he was one of the adult leaders that took a group of kids to the National Jamboree. And so just about a month ago, I think he said he was at a gas station. Anyway, he ran into the father of one of these scouts that was on this Jamboree troop with DeLynn. And the father was saying what a great experience his son had, how it changed his life, how much he appreciated Lynn's leadership. And Lynn kind of had this epiphany. And the way I'm translating it is, people may not be friends of scouting, the organization, or the changes they made, but we hope they're still friends of scouts. So what about Billy or Tommy or Johnny or my son or my grandson or the neighbor kid or your son? Are we friends of scouts? And I would hope most people are, and that people can see past all of these changes and realize that the Grand Teton Council, we are still serving, 23,000 kids, and local financial support, all of that money, 100% of local donations stays locally. None of that goes to the parent organization. I've had lots and lots of people tell me, I'm not going to contribute to Friends of Scouting because I want to send a message to Scouting that I don't like the decisions they made. Not contributing or making a donation to Friends of Scouting, that's not sending a message to the national organization. That's hurting local scouts.
And what does that money go toward?
That's what funds our local camps, the local, the ladies down at the scout office that process the Eagle applications, that when people register, they answer the phone calls and the mail, and all that, that's all local. We pay a charter fee to the national office, just like any franchise. We pay a fee to the national office to be affiliated with them. 100% of that charter fee, it's about $40,000. All that money comes out of our endowment investment funds. We've got funds that are invested, it earns interest. Our board voted to use the interest from our endowment to pay the national fees. So we can truthfully say 100% of all contributions. For example, someone goes to the state fair and buys a tiger ear. A certain percentage of that tiger ear funds local scouting. None of that goes to the national office. So people are trying to send a message, well,
it's hurting locally.
It's just hurting local kids is what it's doing. So before we move on, I want to go back to the name change.
Yes.
A lot of people misunderstand that. The name of the organization is Boy Scouts of America. Has been since over 100 years ago, still is. It's the Boy Scouts of America. Within that program, there's a program called Cub Scouting. Cub Scouting is for now 5-year-olds through 10-year-olds. That's Cub Scouting. The next age group has always been called Boy Scouting for 11-year-olds through 18-year-olds, Boy Scouting. Well, currently now, girls can be Cub Scouts. And we have maybe right now in the council, we probably have about 12 girls that are Cub Scouts.
Cub Scouts.
But there's more joining all the time. By the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a couple hundred girls in Cub Scouts. But all those girls next year will be eligible to become Boy Scouts. So can a girl be a Boy Scout? Obviously there's a problem there. So I like the analogy. You pick up a stick, you pick up one end, you get the other end. When the Boy Scouts made the decision to allow girls in Cub Scouting, we all knew that eventually they're going to have to change the name of Boy Scouts because it's a contradiction in terms. So the announcement by the BSA last week, all they were saying was that 11 to 18-year-old program is now called Scouts or Scouting. So it's Scouting, or that the participants are Scouts rather than Boy Scouts, because in a year there'll be girls in there.
Did you see any backlash locally when they said girls can be admitted?
Surprisingly, yes, and I'm still kind of baffled by that. I've got two daughters. My oldest daughter, she was a Girl Scout for a while, and due to a few various issues, it just didn't work out for her. And as soon as she was 14, so we have 3 boys and then 2 girls. So all of her older brothers were Scouts. It's kind of a family thing. Anyway, my sons are 3rd generation Eagle Scouts, but I hope my grandsons are 4th generation Eagle Scouts, all of them. But so she grew up with a father that was a Scouter and brothers, and anyway, she wanted to do all that stuff, and she wasn't doing that in Girl Scouts. So as soon as she turned 14, she joined a venture crew, and she was active, and she went to Philmont and did a all-girl trek at Philmont, so she liked all those kinds of things, and so she was, and she was very proud of the fact that she was a Boy Scout, but she was venturing, and a father of daughters, so I understand, backing up, I understand that people are upset by the series of, let's call them social issues or decisions the Boy Scouts have made over the last 5 years. But being a girl is not, that's not a moral decision. That's not, some of the other decisions that Boy Scouts made to some of our local people in this area might have been, morally repulsive, to some folks locally, or a lot of folks locally. But being a girl or allowing a girl in Scouts, to me, I just don't understand why people would be upset by that. And the fact is, the scouting programs from 14 and older, venturing, exploring, those have been co-ed for 20, 30 years. Mm. It's not new to the Boy Scouts of America. The only thing that's new is the Cubs now and the new scouting program.
What's been the feedback that you've received since the LDS Church made this announcement?
I have been extremely busy since the news came out. And the first thing I did was I notified my board members, and then I notified my staff members, and I called a 10 a.m. Staff meeting today.
How did that go?
I have wonderful employees, long-term dedicated people. They wouldn't be doing, none of them are paid very well. They're all overworked, but they're dedicated to kids and dedicated to scouting. And no one's excited. It's troubling. The potential impact of this is very significant. I had to tell them, at the end of the meeting, I had to tell them I can't promise them that they're going to have jobs 2 years from now. And that's tough. That's hard. Because these are people that work for 10, 20, 30, in one case, 40 years for the local Scout Council. For me, honestly, as the Scout Executive CEO, worst nightmare. But they were good. They were all positive. They actually, at the end of the meeting, they applauded. It's something that's kind of come on us. But we're all dedicated to kids. We dedicate our lives to it, and we do the best we can to serve them. But nobody likes it. But in the meantime, I am receiving a lot of texts and emails from local volunteers and parents, people that are actively dedicated and involved in scouting. They're saying, we're all in. We're sticking with it. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are members of the LDS Church, and they're saying, we don't care what the church is doing. We're still in scouting, and we want our sons to be Eagle Scouts. And to me, that's very gratifying, because that's what we hope happens moving forward. Is that people, again, it's no different than I'm trying to think. My kids growing up, some of our kids were in choir. It had nothing to do with the LDS Church. They just liked to sing. Some were in the band. It had nothing to do with the LDS Church. They just liked to be in the band. Two of my youngest two were in performing arts, musical theater, high school musical kinds of stuff. They were very, very involved in that. It had nothing to do with the LDS Church. It's just what they liked to do.
That's what they did.
So they, and as parents, we spend a lot of time doing that. The LDS Church is not saying that LDS kids can't be in scouting. It's just the LDS Church is no longer going to be supporting scouting. So we hope that families will still have that vision and understand the values and benefits of scouting.
Does the council own any land or scout camps?
We have 6 camps, 3 Boy Scout camps, 2 Cub Scout camps, and a high adventure base.
Do you see that, if the numbers drop drastically, do you see those being in jeopardy?
That's one of my probably next to my employees, the camps is probably my next big concern is what we're going to do about that. So 2 of our camps, Treasure Mountain, not only most beloved camps in our area, but one of the most scenically beautiful camps in not just the country, the world. This is just not hyperbole, it really is. It's a Forest Service lease. Little Lemhi is a Forest Service lease. Little Lemhi was the council camp out of the old Tendoy Council out of Pocatello, and that was their council camp. So everyone from the southern part of our area, they've always, Little Lemhi is their version of Treasure Mountain for the old Teton Peaks Council out of Idaho Falls. Those are both Forest Service leases. Island Park Scout Camp is a BLM patent lease, which is patented to the Boy Scouts for a Boy Scout camp. So as long as we use it for Boy Scout camp, we can use it, but we couldn't sell it. It's we don't own it, we couldn't sell it, but it is a patent BLM lease. Scout Hollow, and thousands of kids from our area have attended day camp at Scout Hollow, Krupp Scout Hollow. Krupp Scout Hollow is owned by the Boy Scouts. There's a corner of it that we lease from the BLM, but the main property itself is the old Krupp family and Beezer family homestead. But we own that. That's ours. And then we own the property at Salmon River High Adventure Base. That's up near Shoup on the Salmon River. And that's our High Adventure Base. We do own that property. Little corner of that is a Forest Service lease for access, but the rest of the camp's ours. And then the 6th camp is our Portneuf Springs, which is a new camp. We've only had that a couple of years, and it's actually property that's owned by the city of Pocatello, and we've been using it for a day camp for the southern Pocatello area. But again, it's a lease with the city. So
you got to pay the bills.
Yeah. It's just being developed. It is today what Krupp Scout Hollow was 30 years ago. It's an old farm, and we're developing it into a. So anyway, my point in all that is, unlike a regular for-profit business, I can't just liquidate all my capital assets, because you can't liquidate. I mean, there's no. What do you do with a Forest Service lease? We've had that. Treasure Mountain has been a Boy Scout camp for over 80 years.
Wow.
That's all that anyone's ever known it to be. It was a Boy Scout camp. So 2 years from now, is Treasure Mountain or our 6 camps, is that financially sustainable to have 6 camps? The answer is no. It's not, because those 6 camps serve 23,000 kids. If we lose 19,000 of those kids.
You mentioned you come from a big family of scouting, and this is obviously your career, your life. Personally, your thoughts? The guy who recruited me into scouting as a career, his name is Darrell Alder. He emailed me early this morning. We're just kind of commiserating together. It's a sad day. It really is. It's a sad day for scouting. It is and has been a great honor to be the scout executive. One of the best. I mean, this council's known for great programs, great camps. There's going to be some drastic changes, and it's really sad to think about it. So again, my friend and mentor Darrell, he just emailed me, and you'd have to know Darrell, but he's kind of apologizing. He said, "What did I get you into? I'm sorry." And obviously now this is his fault. And I've had a great career. I never intended to become a career scouter. I knew as a 16-year-old kid, I got recruited to serve on camp staff. We lived in New Jersey at the time. So I was on camp staff at a scout camp in New Jersey. And so as a teenager, the camp director was a scout executive. So the guy who had my job in this council, but he was also the camp director, and that wasn't uncommon in those days. So we're going back 40 years, probably longer now, I'm getting old. Anyway, 45 years. Anyway, so as a young teenager, I interfaced with career scouters, the guys that ran the camp, and I knew them, and I had an idea of what they had to do to make a living. I love camp and camping. I love teaching kids to tie knots and wilderness survival, and that's what I loved about scouting. But I didn't want to do all the other stuff that the career scouters had to do, like fundraising and
recruiting, all this other stuff. It's camp that I love. That's what brought me in. So Darrell Older, he saw something in me that I didn't even see myself. And at the time, I was finishing up my college degree down at BYU, but he was the one of the staff leaders in the local council in Provo, where the council was there, and I was a student. And so he really twisted my arm and kind of just, I wouldn't say gave me an offer I couldn't refuse, but really told me all the best things about being a career scouter. So my wife thought I was crazy, and I said, don't worry, I'm going to do this a couple more years. They promised me I can be a camp director, and I said, I'll just be a camp director a couple more years, then I'll go get a real job. So, like 32 years later,
Here you
I
are.
still don't have a real job.
Well,
and I'm no longer a camp director, but it's been a great privilege and honor. I'm not old enough to retire, but we'll kind of see moving forward what happens. This council, I guess one thing I want to comment on is that I know several people have asked me, okay, what about that new building? You got that great, beautiful new building, and now you don't need it anymore. I actually think the building will probably guarantee the future of the Grand Teton Council, because right now we're a little over 50% occupied. We lease the spaces in the building that we aren't using for scouting. We occupy approximately 20,000 square feet for our scouting operations. We also have the Girl Scouts in there, and again, other tenants. But I think that the vision and faith that Frank Vandersloot had in scouting, and his support that the Melaleuca Foundation donated the money to the Grand Teton Council. Our board decided to use that money to purchase the old Melaleuca headquarters building. Again, I think that will guarantee the future of our organization.
well, we'll see what happens. Luckily, it's not as of next month, we're done. You still
we got
have a good
year and a half
Yeah.
to continue to do what we do and serve kids, and again, in that year and a half, we will figure out, but we have to figure out how we can move forward and again do a great job serving more kids.
Clarke Farrer, thanks so much for coming in and talking with us. Clarke Farrer is the CEO, Scout Executive for the Grand Teton Council of the Boy Scouts of America. Thank you for watching. Have a good week.